Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar Buzz. Trevor here, joined by Thomas, as always. And today we are just discussing a bunch of different news things. We got Barbie, which is officially campaigning in original screenplay. Very very big. Shakes up a lot of screenplay. Shakes up some
For
potential
sure.
best picture arguments. Lots of things happening there. Then we have Past Lives, which has reached an interim agreement with SAG and WGA, which basically means that's going to be the only movie in the Best Picture race that can actually campaign, which is massive.
Yep. We'll talk about that, and then we're still in the midst of TIFF as well, which
Right. And we just
took a
had
lot,
like
but we're still here.
potentially the movie of the festival, the breakout of the festival with Sing Sing. And some of its Rotten Tomatoes average score is ridiculous. So we'll be talking about all of that. Let's get into it. Okay, let's get into Barbie. So we heard potential rumors of this. There's been debates over like whether it's original or whether it's adapted or how that's all going to work. And WB is officially campaigning it in original screenplay, which is different than where we had it before. It makes sense. It's an original story. Yes, it's based on IP, but the actual content of the story and even the characters were all completely invented, like as far as like their personalities, character types, everything like that. So it makes sense in original. I'm fine with that as a
Same. I mean, I could have seen it very easy go to adapted. It could have been very easy. Like,
yeah.
this is why we're having the debate, because it could belong very comfortably in either of the categories. I think it's a very wise decision for Warner Bros. To try and campaign it. When you've got potentially, we're looking at the two most major Best Picture.
With
I think
Oppenheimer and
Poor
Poor
Things,
Things,
Oppenheimer, they're in the same category.
plus
They're in
Killers of the
adapted.
Flower Moon.
Plus Killers of the Flower Moon, exactly. Like, I think Barbie could have still won in adapted. I don't
Yeah.
think it's any detriment. Like, it's not like, oh, now it's an original, it's definitely winning. Like, it could have won in adapted, but I think it is a slightly easier category in original. Having said that, there are still things, holdovers are still there, which could potentially, like,
Past
I
Lives
don't know,
there.
holdovers could be more of a thing that attracts you older, whereas Barbie, like, it could be another one of those generational split things.
Right. Yeah.
Which one comes out top? I don't know. And then, as you say, Past Lives is still there, which is in the eyes of many, the best objectively screenplay of the year. So there's still competition in original, but I think this is a good decision for Warner Bros. And I can see it winning. I'd currently
I would have it
original.
number one. I would have it number one.
I think the narrative makes sense. You're on Gerwig, you're on Baumbach. Perfect.
I unfortunately think this might be the end of the road for Past Lives for winning an Oscar, which is really sad because listen, as much as I love Barbie, obsessed with Barbie, everything like that, Past Lives is still my personal movie of the year. I think it's the best screenplay of the year, the best direction of the year. I sadly don't really see a path for it anymore, which is annoying because it really should be winning multiple Oscars. But that's that. Holdovers is an interesting case because like I think it would only win if it's winning Best Picture. I don't see that just winning screenplay, I guess.
No, agreed. But I also think Holdovers does make a lot of sense as a screenplay
It does.
winner, which is not to say Barbie doesn't, but I don't know, just intuitively, Holdovers feels like that type of thing. But as you said, the narrative is there for Barbie, and it's a very acclaimed screenplay. So I don't think it's too much of a problem.
It's a genre thing. It's the biggest movie of the year. It makes a lot of sense in screenplay.
I do, though, think this is a tight race, and it will be a tight race throughout the year. I don't think we'll get a runaway winner. I feel like each ceremony will play to a different sort of
and it also might be weird because as far as things like WGA, Barbie might still be an adapted there.
Yeah, exactly. When these things happen, we saw with Moonlight, I think it's the most egregious example of which category are we doing it in. But like, it causes confusion, and it will still continue. So even though this is like Warner Bros. Are campaigning it, there's still every chance the Oscars say no. And
the Academy could just be like,
like, there's a very genuine chance because there are elements of it that are adapted, I think. But equally, it is a very hard film to walk away from going, that doesn't feel like an original film. Everything about it is original,
unique,
which I do think does help its cause. But this is not guaranteed, but it does at least provide some sort of indicator as to where we might be seeing this film show up later down.
So the other conversation to have here is adapted screenplay, because where are we leaning now? I think the obvious answer is Poor Things.
I think that is where most people are switching to, and I'd agree. I know you have different.
My one concern, and this is a concern with holdovers as well, is we typically, especially recently, like every year for the past 5 years, it's been both winners in the screenplay categories have been writer direct. They like having that name. And even like the most recent one, James Ivory, is like an acclaimed like novelist, and so like he's still named. Like, this would be Tony McNamara for Poor Things, who like isn't it? I mean, he's been nominated before and stuff, but like it's like it used to be a lot more common. Even just like 10 years ago, like it would be at least one, if not both, were just just screenwriters, not writer directors, and we've really been seeing that change like over like the past 5 years. It's really just been writer directors, and I think that is a concern for Poor Things when you have a movie as strong as Oppenheimer with Christopher Nolan behind it, or even something like Martin Scorsese with Killers of the Flower Moon. Like, I'd be perfectly fine and comfortable having Poor Things number one.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are definitely lots of arguments to be made. Like, this could still go 3 ways.
Agreed. I mean, I don't know how likely Martin Scorsese is. I do think I'd be looking at really between Oppenheimer and Poor Things at this point.
Probably, yeah.
But equally, like you bring up that stat about the writer-director stuff, will Nolan win 2 Oscars in the same night? I'm not convinced necessarily. That doesn't necessarily feel like something that will happen, like especially since he seems so locked in director. I don't think anyone will supplant him there.
But
This
I mean,
is a more
it
open
happened for
category.
Everything Everywhere. It happened for Parasite.
It did.
Again,
it did.
in those indies,
yeah.
like it's interesting to look at in these last 5 years since like 2018. It's been since then that we've had writer director every single time. Okay, 2018, Green Book was nominated in director. 2021, Coda was nominated in director. So in the 3 times it's been possible in these last 5 years, it's happened twice with Parasite and Everything Everywhere. The only year it didn't happen was Nomadland, and it was most definitely the runner-up in screenplay to The Father. So it's like I don't know. I think that we've been seeing the Academy shift drastically recently, and it's a very small set of data, but like I think that there's a really compelling argument to be made for Oppenheimer, because I do think it's as strong as Parasite and Everything Ever.
I do. I do think it will sweep massively, but I do also think there is potentially a ceiling to that. Like, it's winning director, cool. We have it winning picture currently. I'm happy to keep it there. Technical side, we know all of those wins. So plus potentially Cillian Murphy, and now you're throwing screenplay on top of it. Like, will it be that major of a sweeper? I'm not entirely convinced. This is why I think there is more like.
It still might not win Best Picture. There's still
it still might not. It still might not. I think, although the thing is with that, like, if Oppenheimer wins screenplay, like I think that is definitely a winning picture there at that point.
Oh, absolutely. Well, because you need director or screenplay.
Yeah, those two things are exclusive to one another. I mean, yes, you've got holdovers there, so potentially that could be a world. But I don't know if Oppenheimer can be that entire, like, can win however many Oscars that would be.
Right,
like, that is a ridiculous amount of Oscars to win. That is more than Everything Everywhere at Once won, and that was a historic moment within itself. So will we get back-to-back years where we've got historic sweepers? Potentially. There's nothing to necessarily say not, but I just don't see it personally. I think we will have a slightly more spread out in terms of which films pick up awards this year. And I think Poor Things will probably take screenplay. It sort of feels like the type of film like people are coming out of it going, electric screenplay, cool. So I think it feels like a winner. So I'm happy to go.
Yeah, no. I'm perfectly fine having it number one, and we can put it number one, but both screenplay categories feel very up in the air.
They do. They both feel, and I'm sure they will do, as I say, until we get to the Oscars. I think we're going to have a very interesting screenplay race in both categories this year, which should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about Past Lives. Speaking of screenplay, massive agreement reached between A24 and the SAG and WGA, the unions, saying that like it's an interim agreement saying that they can campaign for awards and they can do events and they can get the actors out and do Q&As. And this is the only film that we're talking about in the Oscar race that is getting this agreement done. And I don't know
confirmed to be the only, like, or is there a chance that other films could?
Other films could, but it's been A24 and like Neon and all these smaller studios that have been getting these deals, because these deals have been happening. That's why like Kaylee Spaney and Jacob Elordi were able to go for Priscilla, which I think is a big reason why Kaylee Spaney may have won, because she was able to be on the ground and talking with people and doing press and doing Q&As, and she was like on people's minds, contrary to Carey Mulligan, who couldn't be there, or Emma Stone, who couldn't be there. And it's a lot of these bigger studios that haven't gotten a single one of these agreements and have been a lot more staunch because the studio has to have already agreed to the terms from SAG and WGA. And so far, none of the big studios have agreed to the terms, while smaller studios like A24 agreed to them like almost immediately. So yes, other films could, but we're talking about like it would be like Anatomy of a Fall or Zone of Interest and things like that. None of the big contenders. Oppenheimer's not going to get this. Barbie's not going to get this. Killers of the Flower Moon's not going to get this. Holdovers isn't going to get this.
Unless things are resolved by
Unless things are resolved, which hopefully they are.
Exactly. Yeah. Like there is no guarantee, but I think this is massive. Shows at A24 are really, they're already trying to push it out there, or they're already trying to campaign it. I sadly don't think this really gives it any more win potential anywhere than we've been talking
nominations
about.
Though.
I do think, I do think it shores up some of the things that we were potentially looking like slipping, like Greta Lee was slipping. I think it's now definitely still there. Like
Celine Song too, maybe.
I don't exactly. Yeah, Celine Song. Even John McGarrett, I do think that is maybe a bit too far gone. I feel like that category has just been like it's just everyone has now joined that category seemingly. So McGarrett does seem to have been pushed out there. But yeah, I think Greta Lee, Celine Song, now those nominations could be a bit more shored up. We could see it still.
I wouldn't say shored up, but I think that I
probably have them launches them back into conversations. Yeah, exactly. It pushes them back into the nominations.
Yeah, because I'm losing a bit of faith in Zone of Interest, especially considering I don't think it will be eligible for an international feature nomination. No. And more people at TIFF are seeing it and saying, like, this is not, like, it's way too experimental, which, like, I'm still incredibly excited, but as far as awards, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it does open up space for potentially smaller things like Past Lives to
hopefully,
yeah. So I do think this is a massive deal. It's great for them. In terms of, like, winning things, I'm not entirely sure, but it does make it more of an Oscar contender than we were perhaps looking at. It's come at a good time as well. Like Past Lives was slipping. You can try and say, oh, it's just because of festivals. Like Past Lives, in my mind, was losing its momentum a little bit.
Maybe.
But I think that this will definitely be kickstarting it and get it back into where it needs to be in order to get these things awards.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, one more thing here. So we're still in TIFF. There's been a couple other things that have been premiered, but nothing as noteworthy as Sing Sing, okay? Yeah. So we talked about this briefly because this is what Colman Domingo, actually, like, he won the TIFF tribute for. It wasn't for Rustin, it was for this. And it's this film by Greg Quedar, who's made a couple things before, but nothing, that noteworthy. But starring Colman Domingo, Paul Rassi's in it from Sound of Metal, and it's made up of cast members who are kind of playing themselves, and it's about this theater troupe who is escaping from the realities of incarceration through putting on like theater performances, and everybody loves it so much so that the Letterboxd curve, like it's ridiculously good. Like the top ratings are a 4, a 5, and a 4.5, and it's not close. It's gonna get above a 4 on Letterboxd. It's Rotten Tomatoes. It's 100. Okay, sure. Naiad has 100. Who cares if it has a 100%? The average rating is a 9.5. This is the highest average rating that we have seen so far at these fall festivals. It doesn't have a Metacritic yet, but if those scores transfer over, I mean, everybody just seems to really, really love it. And if the Metacritic is out by the time this video goes up, then it will be on screen and you'll be able to see it. This is good. This is really good.
Yeah, it seems like the sleeper hit of the festivals, and there's usually one every year that it's just not on anyone's radar. This really wasn't on my radar. But it seems like a type of thing people want to go for. Like you mentioned, the fact that the cast are playing themselves, apparently, that is the type of thing that audiences will love, especially audiences at TIFF. Exactly, potentially. So I definitely think we could be seeing this in the immediate future with things like People's Choice, potentially. You mentioned there might not be enough screenings for it to technically win People's Choice, but I could definitely see it placing. I think that would make sense for it. I mean, Colman Domingo is just having a great year. Whether this will help his nomination in Rustin or potentially even vice versa, like I think that is a bit up in the air. Like I still would have him nominated in Rustin.
I still think Rustin makes more sense,
but like one could help the other, and I'm not entirely sure which way around that will be as of this point. Like the only question is distributor, which could be a problem for it.
And at this point, I have seen people can make a comparison to Sound of Metal, and I do think it could make a lot of sense for this to get picked up and then held until next year, because that's what Sound of Metal did, and it took the buzz from here. Sound of Metal, I want to say it placed 3rd, and it took its buzz and moved it on to next year, where then it was able to really put on a campaign. And granted, it was a COVID year, so maybe they got a little bit lucky. But I think with the right distributor, based off of just the effusive praise for this film, I do think that the right distributor, like if an Apple or a Netflix or a Searchlight or somebody picks this up, I think it could be in really, really good shape. Hi, everybody. So editing Trevor here. It's just been reported that Sing Sing has been picked up by A24. 2024, and that they are apparently targeting a release for 2024. So it's kind of going the sound metal path. It does look like it is going to be, big kind of sleeper hit at TIFF and then premiering the following year. The A24 pickup is absolutely massive for this film, though. We've seen what they can do with these types of indie things. This is gonna be in the best picture conversation, I think, if all of these reactions stay just as positive, if A24 are able to campaign this thing correctly. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and look ahead to next year already. We aren't even through this year's fall festival season, but looking at the 2025 Oscars, this could be interesting. This could be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I also think this is the problem is, this is the exact type of film where the wrong distributor picks it up, they dump it on their
Like,
streaming
if this
service.
gets Bleecker Street or something, it's over. Like,
exactly. Like, the thing is, this is really so heavily dependent on what studio picks up that I don't think we can really do anything yet. But yeah, I mean, sounds like it'll be really just a very, very good film, and definitely.
Yeah, no, it sounds incredible. I'm excited.
Surprise hits of the festival, which is nice to see. Like, new talent. Yeah, great.
No, I'm personally very, very excited about it. So, and yeah, again, like it's as you said, very studio dependent. But it has all of the makings to be big.
It does.
It has all the ingredients.
For sure. I think the only way that it really comes out this year is if it wins TIFF's People's Choice.
Yeah.
I think that would almost lock them in a corner where they have to put it out this year. That sort of momentum not coming back to you next year. So.
And this is gonna sound insane, but if it comes out next year, this feels like something that you'd put number one to win Best Picture.
Potentially. I don't think it will be that, but it's
no, I do too. But again, new voice on the stage. Yeah. I mean, it has this massive ensemble that everybody falls in love with, that people would want to vote for ensemble. It has a big lead performance. It's heartwarming, but it's small, and it checks, it has a message, but it doesn't go too far politically on the message to alienate people. But it's just an agreeable, centered message. That's
It also is very importantly a film about performing and about. The arts,
and it's going to get the actors.
Exactly.
I don't think it's going to win Best Picture this year or anything that. Obviously, but and I don't know if I would say, it's winning Best Picture next year. That's a ridiculous thing to say. But
there's an argument there.
It has all of the ingredients.
For sure.
For sure. Is it gonna make the meal? I don't know, but the ingredients are there if they so choose. So. It'll be interesting. But that is the most recent news. There's been a couple other things about submissions and stuff. We mentioned Zone of Interest. We'll see if that actually does get submitted or not, and we'll talk about that if that happens. But all the submissions will be on the bottom of the screen that have happened since we last made a video. If you're interested in those, they've been on the ticker. But that is it for today. We'll be back when there's more news. Probably the next video is going to be some reviews on Haunting in Venice, Al Conde, things like that. Plus, TIFF People's Choices on Sunday. And we'll see if something like Sing Sing places. We'll see, where we get Boy in the Hair and where we get Holdovers, where we get, will Hitman show up. Lots of interesting things to talk about with all of that. So make sure you stick around for future videos. You can support the SAG and WGA strikes through the links in the description, as well as following us on social media if that is something you are interested in. But until then, thank you everybody for watching. Stay safe and goodbye.